Absolutely. Here's an expanded version of keynote 1 in Matthew Hussey's emotionally intelligent conversational style, crafted into 0 words with each paragraph containing exactly 10 lines. We live in a world where men are told to be strong, stoic, and unshakable. From a young age, they're trained to hold back emotion, to carry burdens quietly, and to view vulnerability as weakness. And somewhere in the midst of that pressure, touch becomes a casualty, not just the kind of touch that's tied to romance, but the kind that says, "You're safe here." That kind of connection, the casual hand on the arm, the spontaneous hug, the warm shoulder bump, is rarely encouraged, yet when it happens, it speaks louder than words. It tells a man that he's not alone in the world. That someone sees the person behind the armor, that someone's presence is not a demand, but a gift. Most people underestimate just how powerful non-sexual physical touch can be in a man's life. We assume that men only value intimacy when it's leading somewhere sexual, when in truth, it's the everyday moments of genuine touch that leave the deepest mark. A friend clapping him on the back, a partner resting a hand on his chest during a movie, a sister reaching for his hand when he's anxious. These are the moments that remind a man he's not just a provider or protector. He's also a person who deserves tenderness. Touch becomes a way to say, "I believe in you," without even opening your mouth. It bypasses logic and lands in the heart. It tells him he's not just useful, he's loved. And that's something men rarely hear enough, because here's the truth: many men are touch-starved. Not because they don't have relationships, but because they've been conditioned to associate touch only with sex or vulnerability. So when someone gives them physical affection with no expectation, no agenda, it's it's the old wiring. It introduces a new narrative. That affection doesn't have to be earned, and it doesn't have to come with strings. That someone could simply want to connect without needing to fix him, change him, or get something from him. That kind of purity is rare, but when it shows up, it's unforgettable. It teaches him that love can be quiet, simple, and still profoundly healing, and it invites him to receive, which is a harder skill than we often realize. Let's be honest, some of the strongest men you know would fall apart in the best way if someone gave them a long, intentional hug and said, "You're doing great." Because it's not just about touch, it's about what the touch conveys. Physical presence carries emotional weight. A hand on the back during a difficult conversation says, "I've got you." A casual rub on the neck when he's stressed says, "I see how hard you're trying." These are the kinds of silent messages that men long for but rarely ask for. Because asking would mean admitting they need comfort, and admitting that, for some men, that's terrifying. That's why your touch, given freely, is so powerful, and this isn't just about romantic relationships. This applies to friendships, siblings, even co-workers at the right moment, because every man has that part of him that's still the little boy who fell and needed someone to pick him up, not fix him, not lecture him, just be there. You don't need to know all the right words. Sometimes all it takes is sitting next to him in silence with a hand resting nearby. That gesture alone can be a game changer. It says, "You're not alone in this." And in a world where so many men carry invisible weights, being reminded of that matters more than we know. Your presence, without pressure, is a rare and powerful gift. What makes this kind of touch so meaningful is that it's selfless. It's not performance-based, it's not earned through good behavior, and it doesn't come with an ulterior motive. It's there because you care. That care, when expressed through physical connection, helps dissolve the defenses a man didn't even know he built. Because when touch isn't tied to reward or outcome, it becomes a safe harbor. A place where he doesn't need to impress, protect, or prove anything. He can just be, and for many men, that's such a rare experience that when they do get it, they remember it forever. Even the smallest act, A shoulder squeeze, a high five, can ripple deeply through his spirit. This is where emotional fluency meets physical connection. When you combine awareness of his emotional world with the right kind of touch, it's like you're speaking a language he didn't realize he was fluent in. It goes beneath the surface. It doesn't just reach his skin, it reaches his soul. Suddenly, he's not just going through the motions of life. He's feeling something again. Not because you dragged it out of him, but because you gave him permission, through your touch, to feel safe enough to show up. You didn't fix him, you didn't analyze him, you didn't demand his vulnerability, you simply held space, and that changed everything. There's a quiet magic in the kind of touch that doesn't ask anything in return. It builds a bridge between your world and his, one step at a time. That bridge tells him, you're not as alone as you think. And in that realization, he begins to soften, to trust, to let parts of himself be seen that he usually keeps buried. Because now, the world feels a little less harsh, a little less demanding, and a lot more like home. This isn't about rescuing him, it's about reminding him of his own humanity, of the parts of himself that are worthy of warmth and grace, just like anyone else. When you start seeing touch as a form of care, a form of presence, not just passion, everything changes. You stop needing it to mean something romantic, and you start letting it mean something real. You begin to use touch as a way of grounding, of reminding the men in your life that they're still connected. That they still have people, that even in silence there is support, and when men feel that, truly feel it, something remarkable happens. They breathe, they exhale, and often they start to open up in ways that no words ever could have unlocked. Because you didn't just talk love, you demonstrated it, and maybe that's the real power of touch, that in a world full of pressure, performance, and pretense, it becomes one of the most honest ways we can say, I see you, no expectations. No hidden meanings, just presence, just love. It's not loud or flashy, but it's real, and for the men who have forgotten what it feels like to be touched without being needed, without being judged, or without having to give something back, it's everything. It's a reminder that they're not just strong, they're worthy of connection, worthy of being held, and worthy of softness, without apology, certainly. Here's a 1,000-word expansion of keynote 2 in the emotionally resonant, conversational style of Matthew Hussey, with each paragraph structured to contain exactly 10 lines. We often talk about emotional safety like it's something abstract, something created only with words. But sometimes the most powerful form of emotional safety isn't verbal at all, it's physical. It's the moment someone puts their hand gently on your back, and your whole body relaxes without knowing why. It's the casual squeeze of your shoulder that tells you, I'm here, I've got you. For men who are constantly told to armor up and perform, these small gestures are acts of grace. They break the illusion that safety is something you have to earn. Physical touch, when it's free of expectation, becomes a shelter, a place to rest from the pressure of always being on. And for many men, that feeling is rare enough to feel almost foreign. Think about what it means to feel safe in your own skin, without the need to impress or explain. For a lot of men, that's a luxury they rarely experience. They're used to being protectors, providers, performers. They're used to being touched only when they're needed for something, whether it's support, validation, or intimacy with conditions. So when someone offers physical affection just because they care, it disrupts that old script. A hand on the chest when he's feeling anxious, a quiet touch on the arm when he's overwhelmed. These aren't just gestures, they are emotional anchors. They say, you're safe with me even when you're not strong. Men often grow up learning that vulnerability is dangerous, that if they relax, they'll be judged, that if they admit they're struggling, they'll lose respect. So what happens? They retreat, They hold it in, and then someone comes along and touches them gently. Not because they've done something to deserve it, not because they've broken down, but just because they exist. That's powerful. That breaks through a lifetime of conditioning. It whispers to the part of them that's still aching to be seen, not for what they do, but for who they are when they're not performing. And that whisper is often louder than a shout. Physical touch that creates safety is rooted in calm intention. It's not about intensity or drama. It's about presence. It's in the little things, sitting beside him and letting your knee rest against his. Placing a hand on his back as he talks, just to say, "I'm with you." Giving him a hug without needing to say a word. These aren't grand romantic gestures. They're quiet reminders that affection doesn't need a reason. That he doesn't have to earn care by breaking down or falling apart. It tells him he can just be and that's enough. And when someone finally believes that, something inside them begins to shift. There's a difference between touch that demands something and touch that gives something. The first creates tension, the second creates trust, and men can feel that difference more deeply than you realize. When touch is non-sexual, non-demanding, it becomes a refuge, a place where his guard can lower, not out of weakness, but out of relief. He doesn't have to wonder what it means or where it's going. He can stop performing even for a moment, and that moment is often all he needs to begin feeling safe in ways he hasn't allowed himself to feel in years. That kind of safety can't be faked. It has to be felt. Most men are taught that love is something they give, not something they receive. They're the protectors, the strong ones, the ones who step up. So when someone reaches out with a reassuring hand, it reminds them they don't have to carry it all alone. That yes, they're strong, but they're also human, and even strength needs rest. Even protectors need protection. And that doesn't make them weak, it makes them real. Real people with real emotions and real needs that don't disappear just because society pretends they should. In those moments of soft connection, they remember that being held is not a failure, it's healing. Touch creates a kind of unspoken intimacy that words can't replicate. You can tell someone, "I'm here for you," but placing your hand over theirs as they speak, that shows them. It bypasses doubt and lands right in the nervous system. It grounds them. It says, "You don't have to do this alone." Not with fanfare, not with pressure, but with quiet, steady presence. That's what emotional safety really looks like in action. And for a man who's been holding everything in, who's been taught to armor up every day, that simple act might be the first time he's allowed himself to feel truly seen. And that feeling becomes unforgettable. Even confident, emotionally intelligent men are susceptible to feeling unsafe in their own bodies. Pressure wears people down, expectations, responsibilities, the fear of disappointing others. But a well-placed touch, given without agenda, starts to melt that pressure. It says you're allowed to have needs too, and not only that, you're allowed to have those needs met without being judged, without having to explain, justify, or defend them. That's rare. That's why it's so impactful. When a man feels emotionally safe, he doesn't shut down. He shows up, fully, authentically, and it all starts with feeling accepted, without needing to earn it. The irony is that the very men who seem the most self-sufficient are often the ones who need that safety the most. They've spent years being everyone else's rock, the go-to, the fixer, but who's holding space for who's giving them the chance to be soft without shame. Often, it's the person who understands the power of intentional touch. The person who doesn't rush them to open up but stays close, stays calm, and shows affection with no pressure attached. That kind of presence is a form of emotional leadership, and it teaches them that being cared for doesn't take away their strength, it adds to it. So many men are waiting for permission to feel, not because they're emotionally blocked, but because they're emotionally guarded. And that guard didn't appear out of nowhere, it was built, layer by layer. Through years of being told to man up and tough it out. That's why safe, non-sexual touch is such a radical act. It bypasses the defenses and speaks straight to the heart. It says, you're allowed to soften here. You're allowed to be seen here. Not because you broke down. Not because you earned it, but simply because you exist. And that in itself is enough reason to be loved. Here is a 1,000-word expansion of *** keynote 4** in the style of Matthew Hussey. Each paragraph contains exactly 10 lines, with no headings and no ending statements. There's a kind of reassurance that lives in simple, steady physical connection. It doesn't have to be loud or dramatic to be meaningful. Sometimes it's the smallest, most consistent forms of touch that speak the loudest. A warm hug when he walks through the door, not as a hello, but as a reminder, you're safe here. That regular, reliable touch builds trust over time. It tells him, without needing a speech, that your presence is an anchor, especially for men who often feel they have to carry the world on their shoulders. When that pressure meets the calm of your steady touch, something in him relaxes. He doesn't have to be perfect, just present, and that's where connection starts to deepen. So many men live in a world that demands their composure at all times. They're expected to be stoic, to hold it all together, to never falter. But what they often crave is not a fix, not a solution, just somewhere to fall, somewhere to collapse for a moment without being judged or asked to explain. And in those moments, a gentle stroke on the back or a hand through the hair can say, let go here. That physical cue becomes more than comfort, it's permission. Permission to take off the armor just for a bit, to feel, to breathe, to be human again. That kind of touch is rare but unforgettable. Consistent, calming touch also creates rhythm in the relationship. It's like a pulse that both people can return to, especially during chaos or change. Whether it's the ritual of a hand on his chest as he drifts off to sleep or fingers tangled while you walk side by side, these are the moments that restore balance. They remind him he's not navigating life alone. He's part of something, a partnership that doesn't just speak love, but shows it, and the reliability of that contact gives him grounding. It becomes something he doesn't have to question or work for. That kind of safety creates space for real emotional intimacy to grow. In the midst of stress, the male body often goes into silent overdrive. No complaints, no breakdowns, just quiet internal pressure. This is where calming touch becomes essential, not optional. It doesn't need to be dramatic. Just a slow, still hand on his back while he sits in silence. That stillness communicates presence in a way words never could. It tells him, you don't need to talk right now. I'm already here with you. That moment of contact can interrupt his mental noise, if only for a second. And sometimes, that second is the difference between collapse and coping. Between shutting down and softening. Touch also plays a crucial role in regulating the nervous system, especially for men who rarely feel like they can stop performing, protecting, or proving. When your body becomes a safe space for his, you allow his guard to lower. It could be as simple as sitting beside him and placing a hand over his heart. That single point of contact sends a message far louder than speech. It says, you don't have to do anything right now, just be. And slowly, breath by breath, he'll begin to settle. Not because he's weak, but because someone finally made it safe to rest. That's how trust deepens on a cellular level. One of the most underappreciated forms of intimacy is touch without a destination. No goal, no follow-up, just presence. A hand resting on his thigh while watching TV. Fingers brushing his arm during a conversation. These seemingly small acts can become lifelines because they're not asking anything of him. They are simply ** with * him. And for a man constantly giving to others, being on the receiving end of stillness is a kind of healing. It tells him he doesn't need to be on all the time, that he's lovable, even in quiet, unremarkable moments. That kind of love feels like peace, not pressure. When a man is met with consistent, calming touch, it becomes a pattern he starts to trust. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't wait for it to disappear. He begins to count on it. And not in a needy way, in a foundational way, like gravity or breath or heartbeat. That sense of physical security builds a deep emotional safety net. It's not just about romantic chemistry. It's about nervous system alignment. It's about saying, through touch, this bond is real and it isn't going anywhere. And when he feels that kind of certainty in his bones, he shows up in ways that surprise even him. The strength of a relationship is often found in how it handles quiet moments. Not the date nights, the vacations, or the grand gestures, but the still, mundane pauses. That's where touch speaks most clearly. A quiet hug while he brushes his teeth, a hand that finds his under the dinner table. These unannounced gestures are often the ones he remembers most, because they weren't for show. They were for him, and in those seconds he felt chosen without needing to earn it. That feeling is what builds loyalty. Not because you demand it, but because he feels it every day in your hands. Touch isn't just physical. It's emotional information. And for men who have been conditioned to withhold their emotions, your calming touch can become the doorway back to themselves. It allows them to process not by talking, but by feeling. That hand on his shoulder after a hard day. It says, you don't need to make this okay right now. That arm around his waist as he reads quietly. It says, I'm proud of the man you are, even when you're still. Those messages sink in deep, and they begin to rewrite the narrative that says men have to be strong, silent, and separate. It tells them they're allowed to receive too. Consistency is the love language that doesn't get enough attention. It's not about intensity, it's about reliability, and when your physical touch becomes a steady rhythm in his life, it teaches him he can relax into love. That he doesn't need to chase affection, it's already his, that he doesn't have to wonder if he's enough. Your daily gestures say he is. And when he finally trusts that, when he believes in the safety of your presence, something powerful shifts. He doesn't just open up to you, he opens up to himself, because your touch reminded him of something essential. That peace doesn't have to be earned. Sometimes it just has to be held. Here is a 1,000-word expansion of keynote 3 in the style of Matthew Hussey. Each paragraph contains exactly 10 lines with no headings or ending statements as requested. There's something deeply affirming about a kind of touch that says, I see you, not I want something from you or I need you to perform, but simply you exist and I notice. For many men, touch is often transactional. It's tied to achievement, reward, or performance. So when someone reaches out to touch their arm during a conversation or squeezes their hand after a long day, it's not just contact, it's recognition. It's a moment that says, you're not invisible. That kind of touch lands deeply, especially for the man who spends his days giving without ever being given to. It reminds him that his presence alone is enough. And that reminder has the power to heal something unspoken inside. When men feel appreciated through small, intentional gestures, their emotional walls start to come down. Not because someone pried them open, but because those walls were simply no longer needed. A gentle hand on his forearm as you laugh at his joke, a soft nudge of your foot against his under the table. These aren't grand declarations, they're micro moments that say, I see your effort, I value who you are. And those small cues of connection work their way past years of silent armor. Because when touch is consistent and thoughtful, it begins to rebuild what life might have worn down. It tells him you matter not just for what you do, but for how you show up. That's what makes it so powerful. We often underestimate how starved men are for affection without agenda, for contact that doesn't come with pressure, expectation, or hidden motives. And that's why a simple hand on his chest while watching a movie can be profound. It doesn't ask him to fix anything, explain himself, or be anyone but who he is. It just says, I see you, I choose you, and I'm here. That's not just comforting, it's deeply validating. In a world that demands proof of his worth every day, this kind of touch says, you don't have to prove anything here. And the moment that lands, his nervous system starts to breathe. That's the moment connection deepens. Appreciation through physical touch is about timing, presence, and sincerity. It's not about performance, it's about resonance. It's that supportive squeeze of his shoulder when he's unsure of himself. That pat on the back after a hard decision, even if he doubts the outcome. These touches are small, but they carry weight because they're not reactive, they're intentional. They don't respond to success. They acknowledge effort. And men feel that distinction. They feel the difference between someone who touches them because they're proud of them versus someone who touches them because they're them. That difference is everything. One of the most transformative things a woman can do is offer touch in a way that mirrors back a man's essence, not what he does, but who he is. When you rest your hand gently on his thigh while he's driving, it's not about the gesture. It's about the grounding it provides. It says, you're leading and I trust you. Or when he shares something vulnerable and you gently take his hand, it says, I respect you even more for your honesty. Those are moments that echo in his mind long after they happen. Because they meet a need he may not even know he has. The need to feel appreciated for being real, not for being perfect. Touch becomes a language of appreciation when it's spontaneous and rooted in genuine affection. Not when it's routine, not when it's obligatory, but when it flows from presence. Imagine a quiet morning. He's making coffee, half asleep, and you wrap your arms around him from behind. That moment isn't planned, and that's what makes it land. It says you didn't have to do anything special to be worthy of this affection. Or you pass by him on the couch and lightly run your hand through his hair. That's appreciation in motion. That's saying, I notice you, I value you, I choose to reach for you. And when men are touched like that, they start to soften in the best way. The beauty of non-sexual physical affection is that it carries no agenda but connection. It doesn't push, it doesn't pull, it simply says, I want to be near you. And when that's paired with sincerity, it becomes irresistible. A hand resting gently on his knee while you talk. A brush of your fingers along his arm as you walk past. These aren't just movements. They are markers of attention. They create a space where he doesn't have to perform masculinity to be embraced. He just has to be himself. And for the man who's been trained to suppress softness, that permission becomes liberation. Sometimes appreciation is about catching the unnoticed moments, the ways he shows up when no one's watching, when he fills up your car or does the heavy lifting without fanfare. That's where intentional touch can say what words might miss. A silent hug, a quick kiss on the cheek, a slow, grounding hand on his chest before he sleeps. These moments tell him, I see the ways you care even when you don't announce it, and that recognition. That lands harder than compliments ever could, because it reaches the part of him that wonders if anyone notices. It tells him that love isn't conditional, it's attuned. We often think men need space and independence more than anything. And yes, those things matter, but what they also need, sometimes desperately, is to feel appreciated in a way that isn't loud or public, in a way that feels private and real. That kind of appreciation is found in a thumb gently rubbing the back of his hand during a quiet dinner, or a hand resting against his heart while you both breathe in silence. These small things don't interrupt his strength. They amplify his humanity. They make room for his inner world to be acknowledged, not just his outer actions. And that space is sacred for a man who gives so much. The irony is that it often takes the softest touch to affirm the strongest parts of a man. You're not praising him like he's done a job well. You're honoring him like he is someone well. You're not celebrating the outcome, you're appreciating the presence, and the body remembers that, the heart opens to that. When a man feels consistently seen, touched, and appreciated without pressure or performance, he stops trying to earn his worth and starts allowing love in. Not because he's weak, but because he finally feels safe enough to be loved for who he truly is. And that, more than any speech, any gift, or any praise, is what makes him feel alive.